Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, agents. I'm Mounty Carl, and welcome back to another installment of my current and long-running series, Let's Talk with Mounty Carl. Because what we do here is more than just do a Let's Play. We like to talk and discuss the game while we're playing. I feel like now it is time to have this discussion, because we are about, I'd say 6 months out from Ghost Recon Wildlands. Today, that is what we will be discussing, Ghost Recon Wildlands and The Division, and comparing them. Now, this wasn't a topic that I chose, but more or less I ran across an article today by a news site, which I'll link it down to the description, but I wanted to check it out, and it was written today, and because there's no new information about Ghost Recon Wildlands, or no new videos, or no new anything, I was kind of shocked that something would crop up today. So I wanted to inform you about it and comment on it and kind of just go over the ridiculousness of this article. And this one, there wasn't actually any information in it. So let me just go ahead and just tell you there. I'm just going to do a response really quick to this article and give you my impression. But I just want to go ahead and go over some stuff really quickly so that you actually have some information and it's not just this article, which is just a fluff piece to get people to go to a website and give them money. The Division is really a pseudo open world style game, and I say pseudo because it's not really a true open world style game when you can't access almost all of the world like you can in, say, a Grand Theft Auto. Well, I guess it is more or less true open world style game, since half the content you get to is behind a giant wall or it's underground, but I digress. It's not open like, say, its successor Ghost Recon Wildlands, where the entire game is open from the start. And I actually don't know if it's open from the start. It just looks open from the start. Now, I had a chance to play Ghost Recon at E3, and it played nothing like The Division, despite having some very similar running animations and some other stuff. But once again, my experience in game development tells me they could have just borrowed the animations from Massive, from Ubisoft, since they own it, since the game companies do this stuff all the time when assets for that game aren't really ready. And Ghost Recon at E3 was actually nowhere near where The Division was when they showed it at E3 in 2014, and it's probably the source of a lot of people's disappointment right now for people wanting to go and play Ghost Recon when it comes out next March. And I would love to tell Ubisoft that they can invite me to their studios, and I'll do a full breakdown of Wildlands for my viewers so I can report back to you, the players, on the current status of the game and whether or not it's getting better than what the E3 version was and what was met with mostly bad reviews. And I promise if that happens, I will give it a fair and honest alpha evaluation, which is to say I will take into consideration what is done only, and that is only what I see and not an opinion of what I think it should be compared to where it is and what it looks like. And that is really why 100% of the reviewers did at E3, they were reviewing it like it was an entire game and not like it was an alpha. And from what I felt, the alpha version is very good, because I played a lot of alphas, I played a lot of prototypes, and this game actually felt pretty good, gave me a good sense as to where they were going with it. I can say that that since I looked at it and play nothing like The Division, there is hope that you actually won't be disappointed when it's released, because it can only get better from where it was and where The Division was, when they actually got worse over the 7 months we waited prior to launch. So last March, which in fact is the same launch time frame for Ghost Recon, which is a little scary. Now let's hit this article up, and it's probably full of irrelevant stuff, but let's see. If it is, I bet I'll slam whoever wrote this garbage, but I'm going to go into it with the same open mind that you are. So I'm going to link to the article down in the description if you want to follow along. So let's go ahead and get into it. Had The Division not been released, Ghost Recon Wildlands would have been anticipated by most fans of Tom Clancy games, along with those that enjoy tactical shooters. Now that The Division has been released, however, many fans are wondering how the shooter will differentiate itself from it, since both of them are Tom Clancy titles and have multiplayer capabilities. Well, so far so good. So let's, there's a lot of things. They're not really making these wild assumptions. And yes, The Division, and I don't say this lightly, but The Division I see as the final straw in most gamers' eyes for Ubisoft titles. First, we had the horrific nightmare that was the launch of the AC Unity title on Xbox One. We have never had a solid Ubisoft multiplayer game after Rainbow Six Vegas and the original GRA, so we were treated with the steaming pile of multiplayer crap that was Rainbow Six Siege, where you selected one of the predefined characters that forced you to play a certain way unless the character was taken, and then you were forced to play another way, and that's only if you could get into a game. Matchmaking was absolutely just lol-tastic. Ranked, yeah, good luck finding something with a ranked game. Nobody played ranked. And Siege is by and large the worst Rainbow Six title I have ever played. And I liked Siege, but come on. The mechanics were just, they were good, but, for what it was, a tactical shooter, it was absolutely dreadful. Picking a character, you were forcing people to play just so you could sell new characters. It's really bad form on Ubisoft support. Fast forward to The Division. Actually, not a bad online experience, really, if you count the words beta or delta and mic. The lag, the horrible frame rate stuttering. So Ghost Recon doesn't really have that much to actually live up to in terms of standards when you compare it with The Division. However, The Division probably caused 50 to 99% of the people looking forward to Ghost Recon Wildlands to actually reconsider their choice of pre-order and see whether or not they like it when it comes out. It's sad to say you did this to yourself, Ubisoft. You really did. You screwed up with The Division, and if I were you, I would really consider making a Division 2, unless you're going to do it right, because people are salty on it. Nobody's gonna, unless you absolutely loved The Division, which a lot of us did. We all loved it, but a Division 2, I don't really see that right now in the works. So let's keep going. When Ubisoft was asked by Segment Next if the new Ghost Recon game was influenced by their big multiplayer shooter, they denied it. Well, yeah, they're going to deny it. Nobody wants to be. I mean, they know what product they have and how salty the player base is. So why would they admit it? They're different developers, so it's not going to be the same. If Massive was developing Ghost Recon Wildlands, nobody would be in line to buy it. It's as simple as that. Massive really screwed the pooch on The Division, and so if they were making Ghost Recon Wildlands, you would see just absolutely plummeting numbers and record low pre-orders of the game. Both games are supposedly very different, which is good news for those who didn't particularly enjoy The Division or those who want something different. Well, yeah, no kidding. Or those who want to play an actual shooter without using 150 bullets to kill a guy. From what I saw, this is not an RPG like The Division, but more of a shooter with mechanics and enemies where they're not bullet sponges, which is probably why it's hailed as a tactical shooter without the tactical part. And maybe they're going to build in the tactical part later, but the alpha didn't have it. And yeah, it's an alpha, and I'm willing to give them time to add in the tactics like going prone, cover-based shooting, vehicle warfare, maybe hiding in a bush or two for those who want the stealth take on it. But yeah, games like this should offer you the ability to go in stealthy or go in, just guns blazing. Think of it like Metal Gear Solid. This is their multiplayer Metal Gear Solid, and that should be really where it is. Comparisons between Ghost Recon Wildlands and The Division started when it was revealed that the new Tom Clancy shooter ditched tactical gameplay and has running animations similar to the aforementioned hit game. Ubisoft said that the footage with similar running animations was a pre-alpha build and that the final game would have smoother running, which is good. Yeah, no biggie here. Like I said, they borrow stuff from developers all the time, so they probably just borrowed the mocap, and the mocap on Wildlands wasn't done yet, so they just borrowed some animations. I'm happy to look at a newer version of the game. Ubisoft, seriously. Hit me up, I'll come out, I'll review it on my dime, I'll just come down to your studios in San Francisco, hang out for the day, look at it, and report back on what I see, because I want to see this game succeed. And if somebody like me, who's very cynical and hates you right now because you've absolutely ruined their favorite game that is out right now, you would have a bunch of people who I would convince to buy the game, and people would buy it. People would pre-order it. If I said, hey, this game is going to be good, and I really liked what I saw, they would buy it, honestly. I've been probably the Division's biggest critic, at least on YouTube, and I would probably sell you, at least a few thousand more copies than what you got right now. So I understand that there are a lot of things out there, and the comparison between Ghost Recon Wildlands and The Division, starting when it was revealed that Tom Clancy's shooter ditched tactical gameplay, that's, it's really, The Division has a lot of tactical gameplay in it. So there's just, other than, I know you're going to say that the bullet sponges isn't really tactical, but, cover-based mechanics, that's tactical. Having the guys try and flank you, that's pretty tactical. There's some tactical elements there. So it's really what it is what it is. That's really what it is. So let's keep going. There is also a progression system, which has also been compared to The Division. Ubisoft claimed that it was too early to discuss the progression system in Wildlands, but once again stated that the two shooters are different from each other, aside from Tom Clancy's brand being front and center in their titles. So let me clear this up. There is no progression system in The Division, really. That is wrong, and a wrong assumption on so many levels. You unlocked items and you unlocked systems in the base of operations, but you never really had a progression system, because a progression system increases things. All you did was get things and unlock things. That's all you did. Progression systems allow you to choose how to develop a character. The Division was an unlocking mechanism to allow users to unlock abilities, but there wasn't really a progression, as characters never progressed except through acquiring new gear. And so when you acquired new gear, your character progressed. You got more health, you got more stuff like that. So that's really what it is. So there's no progression system in The Division. It was an unlocking mechanism. Your character didn't grow. You didn't get more health through some sort of systematic process. You didn't really level up. Leveling up really didn't increase your stats or anything like that. It just allowed you to get new gear. So that's not really a progression system. That's unlocking stuff to benefit the player and move them on. So let's keep going. So does Ghost Recon look like The Division? It's somewhat comedic how Ghost Recon games have actually been around longer than The Division, but now the latest entry in the series is being compared to Ubisoft's newer property. Wildlands does have major differences, like how it's set in a different country and has a proper single-player mode. The Division is more multiplayer-centric, while this and previous Ghost Recon games have always had single-player support. Single player, let's talk about that. The Division has a single player, yes. It does. You can play co-op or you can play single player. There's nothing stopping you. And you can play the entire game in the single player fashion. At the end of the day, though, you needed a team to actually get past any of the endgame content until the underground came out. But for anyone playing single player, it was probably over for them a long time before that happened. So, will Wildlands be a better game than The Division? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Despite The Division selling a lot of copies, some fans have grown tired of the game, so it might not be too hard to beat the multiplayer shooter in terms of quality. Ghost Recon Wildlands will come out on March 7, 2017, PS4, Xbox, and Windows PC. The game is now available for pre-order. Yeah, most people aren't going to pre-order it. So, there's not really anything new in terms of actual evaluation or comparison, so this article can be chalked up to nothing new, and honestly, that's all we're getting until we see more gameplay footage from Wildlands. But by the time Wildlands has been released, The Division will just be a speck in most people's eye. It will have run its course and been over for about 2 months from the last DLC that has launched. Personally, when I played Wildlands, I was actually impressed by the beauty of it and not by the gameplay. I think it's what Ubisoft needs to go and do a 180 on The Division and make the shooting based like what it is on Wildlands. It's hard to do, since the entire mechanic of the enemies taking 3 clips to kill is the main purpose of the game. Like, that's the whole mechanic of the game. Massive built this whole mechanic around how many clips it takes to kill people and the time to kill. So you won't see that change anytime soon. It would just be a mess that, they would have to do a Star Wars Galaxy on The Division to actually make it a better playable game. And it's hard to do, since since The Division completes its light cycle here pretty soon, and we'll start seeing promotions for Ubisoft's Wildlands showing up about how awesome it is. And to be honest, I won't actually get it. I'm not going to pre-order it. I'm actually bowing out of the pre-order on this one until I've actually played it in my hands for more than a few hours and I understand where the developers are going with it. My thought was that it looks like a Far Cry 3. It reminded me a lot of Far Cry 3 and doing these sieges on the compounds and stuff like that. So in my mind, that's not actually a bad thing. So if it is like Far Cry 3 and it plays very similar to Far Cry 3, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'll actually get it and I'll be happy with it. And even if it's in third person, it'll be great because I enjoyed Far Cry 3 and a lot of you did too. Even though the multiplayer was terrible, it was probably some of the worst multiplayer ever made. And it just goes to show, Ubisoft, your multiplayer is terrible. You need to hire some people who know how to do multiplayer. You need to hire a legitimate designer who can do multiplayer. You need to figure out the multiplayer stuff, because that is what is killing your games right now. It's multiplayer. You have no idea how to do it. So that's been my time. Before we leave though, I did get my PlayStation 4 back from the shop this past week, and I have to set up my new PSN, and I just set up the account just for you guys. This is specifically for my Gun Brothers Gaming fans, and it is Mountie Carl. That's it, one word, Mountie Carl, MOUNTIECARL. That is it. That is my PSN name. I'll throw it up on the screen, and if you find folks want to come and hang out or play, then add me on PS4. Right now, the only games that I have for it are No Man's Sky and GTA 5, despite having it for almost over a year. I do have some other games, but they're all single player. Those are the only multiplayer games. I don't have Destiny, because I play all those stuff on Xbox One. So if you want to play those, then you're golden. If not, I will see you over on the Xbox One, where I play most of my actual games that are multiplayer. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it. Consider subscribing as we move from New York to outer space in search of new galaxies starting tonight. For all of us here at the Let's Talk series, I'm Mountie Carl, and we'll see you in the underground, or at least in outer space. Agent out.